let's get kicked off. The colleagues that we have on the phone are Dave Capillari, co-chair of this. Debbie Horton helps Dave and I glue this together. Jin Ha, new faculty member in civil engineering. I was on the search committee and I was kind of embarrassed that like some of our students had to show me some of the cool new stuff he was doing on. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to get him in front of the group. Shashay's worked closely with Dave Capillari, standing up a new icons initiative. Brandon Pitts just joined in. He's got an awesome initiative with, I guess, mobility challenged individuals that he spoke on last time. And Greg Shaver, who's got deep ties in the commercial vehicle space, Cummins, truck platooning. That's who your audience is here, Jin Ha. And what I thought we would do, you're kind of that star attraction in terms of lead off. I think you got a relatively short presentation.
Sure.
You're going to record that so we can make it available. And I think more importantly, I hope we get a chance to get some discussion going, because I think the goal is how can we one of Mung's directive is how can we leverage some of the cool things going on and come up with some collaborative, larger ventures. So Jin Ha, over to you to share the screen, and then we'll have some dialogue.
Thank you, Darcy, and thank you, Darcy, inviting me to this great opportunity to share some of the work that I've been, working on since I joined Purdue. And I hope you can see the screen that I'm sharing right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So let me just. And today, what I want to talk about is Indiana statewide LiDAR data portal that I've been working on. And before I just start my presentation, these are my lab members. Sun Chano, who's postdoc working with me for, actually, before I joined Purdue, he's been working with me for almost 3 years right now. Akash is a PhD candidate, and Joshua and Hansu is a PhD student who is in my research group. And without their support, definitely this is not going to be possible. And when I first joined Purdue, and of course another disclaimer is that also I'm a Purdue alum as well. I did my PhD at Purdue, got my PhD in 2011, and I did a postdoc UIC, and I moved to Texas, and I came back to the Purdue in 2019. So I was aware of this kind of Indiana statewide LiDAR data collection happening when I was here at Purdue as well. But the Indiana is one of the few states who has been collecting statewide LiDAR data for the whole state on a regular basis. And so far we have 2 complete statewide LiDAR data cycle collected. The first one was collected in 2011-13, finished, and the most recent one is actually started in 2016 and finished in 2020. And the reason why it took longer than the previous one was because I believe 2019 or 18, when the Southwest County was supposed to cover it, we had a flooding, so they were not able to fly. So they have to to cover this small corner at the 2019 years, and the final data product was delivered in 2020. But a lot of people is not aware of these kind of data resources. But if you look at how much money being put in to make this kind of project happen is for 2011 and 13, the combination of USDA and I believe USGS and also in the state of Indiana putting in money of worth of $4.6 million to collect this data set, and it was about 11 terabyte of data collected at that time. And to this, recent one is $6.6 million. The reason is because the point density for more recent data set is denser than the previous one, so they're it is more expensive than the previous one. But it also data volume is increased as well, which is 13 terabyte as well. So if you look at this, it is over $11 million investment, both federal and state money, going into this data product. But when I first, arrived here at Purdue in 2019, the way how you're going to access this kind of data set was, very, very primitive. So, once the, in state of Indiana received those, data sets from the vendors, this hard drive is going to go to the Indianapolis office. And wherever they need the data set, this hard drive is going to ship via USPS. For example, Fort Wayne, go to IU campus. And when I first arrived here, 2019, and they were actually looking for somebody who is going to receive this data set, so that we're going to copy it locally and use it for later. But I found that this is not the best way to share the data set. $11 million investment. If you are the one who want to access this data, you have to contact somebody to receive this via mail and use it. So this is not good. And in addition to do that, when this LiDAR data was initially delivered, they only provided, I'm not going to talk about orthomosaic because they didn't include the aerial images at the time, point cloud and the digital terrain model, which is essentially something like this. Whenever you collect the LiDAR data, which is gives you point cloud data, they're gonna just the classify pointing to terrain versus and everything else, so that they can actually measure the elevation of the ground, as we call it in the digital terrain model. They also give you the point cloud data as well. But there's a lot more information that can be extracted out of this data set. So my research group go ahead and generate the additional data product, which is this surface model, which is an elevation of the top surface. And if you just do the subtraction from surface model to terrain model, basically it gives you the something called the normalized digital height model, which is essentially height above the ground. So that average height measurement is reference to the ground. So basically what we are doing is flattening out this surface, so that removing all those topographic impact.
So Jinha, maybe just a quick question. Can you go back just to maybe just get a little bit of dialogue? The part that jumped out at me was statewide coverage in this Z elevation. I know Greg Shaver is in his work in the commercial vehicle space, trying to find scalable ways to identify the grade of the road. Could you maybe just talk just a little bit about that spatial elevation? Because I
Sure.
thought that the road thing might be an area where there might be some food
Sure.
for some dialogue.
Sure. So basically we have this digital terrain model, which is going to be essentially elevation after moving everything. It's going to be vegetation and building, and you have the elevation in a continuous way. So I think that the way always sometimes it's much easier to see than me explaining what that is about. So let me just demonstrate the data portal.
Okay,
they're going to be
interrupt.
Yeah. So basically what I did is that in addition to point cloud and the DTM, the additional data product like a surface model and normalized digital height model is now available for the whole state. And the problem is how we're going to actually distribute it. And we just my group developed web services. Basically, everything is kind of stored in a server, and you're going to be as an end users, you just need to access all these data set through the web services. So what I'm going to do is I want to do the demonstration of this website. So if you just go here, the URL is lidar.gina.org. If you just type in, and this is open to public, so anybody can access it right now. There is some disclaimer of the data product. And if you just click OK, and what you're going to see is a map over here. You can just use a mouse, zoom in and out. And it's divided into counties. So what I want to like to do go here is for example Bloomington, because the reason why I'm picking this area is because TP County is too flat. The terrain model looks very boring. But if you go to this the Bloomington area, we have Brown County state park over there. So there the terrain looks much more interesting. That's the reason why I'm kind of selecting over here. Once you click this in a specific county, a pop-up window will show up. It says LiDAR data download. Once you do that, it's going to go to another page. It will show you we call the LiDAR tiles. And this LiDAR tile is the unit where this LiDAR data is being delivered. So once you zoom in, you can just click specific tile. For example, I want to download the LiDAR data for this specific tile. All you need to do is click. Then they will give you two different options. Download the 2011 LiDAR data, and the 2018 LiDAR data, point cloud, digital terrain model, surface model, and DHM, and that's the way you can download it. But also, if you want to visualize how those data set look like, you can just check those in the DM on the right. Basically, it's going to actually show you the digital terrain model for the whole county, colored by different colors, so that you can just visually see it. Not only that, let me just try to locate myself. So this is in Bloomington, IU campus over here. Let me just zoom in. You just turn this on. You're gonna see all this road is gonna be shown over here. So and all those pixels. Another thing they did over here is they call the hydro flattening. Whenever there is the water going going through, they just making flattening. But they we should be able to have a continuous road certain elevation derived from original LiDAR data if needed as well. But also you can just turn this on so that you can know, visualize normalize this height model. Basically, how tall individual trees are, how tall those buildings are, all those information is available for the whole county. And even better than that, you have, this have information for whole state. So if you go to Brown County, for example, you can just, turn back on, turn on this in the DEM and normalize this height model. And everything is, available, for the whole state. And if you are, because another thing is that actually, if you want to download the data set for the whole county, you have to click so many times. So what I also did additionally is that create another page over here. If you just add a IN Indiana 2019, and all those in the data product is also summarized by counties as well. So if you want to go to Monroe County over here, for example, you have a folder for DSM, DTM, losses and point cloud data, NDHM, and I also generated countywide mosaic for DSM and NDHM as well. So those are things that are available for you to play with, and some of the application that can be developed out of this one is that this is actually Dr. Krogmeyer's group's work, where they're using the statewide LiDAR data to see can we simulate the shadow on the road surface, because we believe that snow is going to be melt slower in a shadow area. So basically using statewide LiDAR data, this is in a segment of the road, and trying to simulate the shadow due to this different sun angle. As you can see that this can be simulated using this statewide LiDAR data. And I also believe Dr. Krogmeyer's group is using this data set to simulate the cellular blockage using this statewide LiDAR data, because, and also potentially using UAVs to resolve those kind of issues. So this kind of data can be used for that application. And one of my research groups' work is using this statewide LiDAR data is can you actually do the building footprint extraction using this data set. So we have a training data set and a test set data set over there using deep learning algorithms. We just try to extract a building footprint from this kind of data set. And another one is also trying to use this as for the forestry application, and how to actually measure inventory individual trees, detecting individual trees, and also measuring the height of the trees, so that those kind of information can be used for forestry application. So that is what I prepared for today. And probably I can just.
So maybe just a quick question, just get a little bit of dialogue going.
Sure.
Before we jump on. To me, when I saw this, I saw a couple things. Road grade potential for that, and as I'm looking at those building models, I'm just trying to think about some of the work Iman does in maybe GPS degraded area. And any comment in terms of kind of the applicability of those data? And maybe that third question is, I'm just trying to give you them all so you can kind of talk through them. Is this maybe a wind differentiator for Indiana that maybe other states don't have? So I know I threw 3 questions at you, but I was trying to get some ties to Professor Shavers and Professor Krogmeyer's work for you.
So I think the calculating grade from this statewide LiDAR is going to be, I'm going to say that it's going to be one of the low hanging fruit, because data is available. And we also have a statewide the road network layer available as well. So simply merging those two, I believe that we should be able to calculate those things pretty easily as well. And another one that you talked about, the building footprint. So this is one of the things that we do, and eventually this is the eventual direction that we want to go. after we have those building footprint extracted, what we can do here is actually generate a 3D model. No, actually, this is not it. And actually, it should be over here. Let me just go to the Tippecanoe County. Let me go over there. I have to go to Tippecanoe County. Select this. This is not the statewide LiDAR building footprint. And actually, we can build the model this building in 3D. Like you can see over here, this is example for the campus. And the building footprint is extracted from the machine learning algorithms, and we can extract the height of the building. And we have those 3D models of the building extracted something like this. And potentially this can be used to simulate the GPS blockage or multipath problem in this kind of environment as well. And the third question was, I think about the Indiana is one of the. I believe this is Indiana is the only state where we have multi-pool in a statewide LiDAR data collection. I believe that there are other states they have a statewide data collection, but the only ones as part of the USGS 3D program. But the Indiana, we are planning to cover in the whole Indiana state every 4 to 5 years. And the first one was 2011 and 13. Next one was 16 and 19. So we can expect that another data acquisition is going to happen in another 3 to 4 years as well. And this is going to be, in my opinion, valuable data set to do so many other things. Forestry is going to be one of the kind of biggest application that we can do. But I don't think this kind of data set has been utilized much for transportation at this moment application.
Super. So maybe I want to volley to Ayman and then over to Greg. Ayman, you were chair of the search committee that hired Jinha, so I just want to tell you thank you. Any comments to add?
No, I mean, I agree with Jinha. Like this is a very good data set which is freely available, and we should really take advantage of it. And I know, like for example, in Indiana, Ohio, the USGS, there are very good programs. So again, for the I-70, I think maybe we can coordinate this one with Ohio, Darcy, and we can get a complete actually grade of the I-70 in Indiana and in Ohio as well, using their LiDAR data as well. So that's something that could be done.
Greg, any comments? I know you've been working in this area of adaptive cruise control, and I don't know whether Jinha wants to tee up something on I-69. Over to you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy. No, this is it's incredible. It's truly, I think it's a game-changing type of data set. So I am delighted that it exists and that you're working on it. And a couple of things come to mind. I agree with Darcy. I mean, if and you make it sound easy, but it wouldn't be easy for me. Let's just put it that way. You could take your point. You could take your point cloud, or somebody could take your point cloud, and then from that, of course, you already have elevation, and then elevation, down a road. I don't know if you do this by mile marker or what. I know there are other. That's something that's very much in Darcy and Ayman's space about how we talk about data where vehicles move. But if in data sets we already have, or in a frame of reference we already have for different roads, including I-69, we had computations done with the data you're speaking to and the effort you're speaking to here, where we also had elevation as well as like a calculation of grade, percentage. That would be extremely valuable. So it would take somebody who's pretty good at coding to take the map that includes the road, take the map that includes the point cloud, and maybe it's a 5-minute thing, but I doubt it. So I think that would be really cool. For certain, and then the other thing maybe we could help you with is to understand to what extent or not, and I think it would be, is it accurate enough to use for the kind of work that we do? All measurements are wrong. Some are useful, and what they're useful for just depends on what you're using them on, right? So
sure.
With what level of accuracy is the elevation in the grade data, say along I-69 or any route? How does it compare to other methods that we've used in the past that rely on a vehicle moving down that, being driven down that road. That has been enough for us to do what we need to do. It's been good enough. Is the accuracy of the data that you can generate from your LiDAR point clouds as good or better than that? Yeah. And then if it's as good or better than that, then I think the additional benefit of what you have here is you would have it for all the roads, as long as they have line of sight, yep. Right? And then the only question that would remain would be, how often would that need to be updated, based off of changes to
outstanding comments, Greg.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Sorry to run on, but
go ahead. No. I didn't know if you died. I lost audio on you. I didn't know if you stopped.
Oh no, I'm here. No, I'm not quite done. Sorry, I'm a talker. I'm almost as bad as Darcy. Maybe as bad. I don't know. Maybe worse. Depends on the day. And then you could update those. You don't have to do all of Indiana again to update what you have on a road, mm-hmm. Right? In Indiana, NDOT keeps us informed about when they're doing construction. So you can do what you've done over the state, over the road, mm-hmm. From the air, when and as necessary. And if this is something that's accurate enough, and again, I think we could work together to determine that pretty quickly, mm-hmm. then I think all of the companies that move freight, as an example, Darcy, on the roads in Indiana would love to have this data, particularly if it was free or free-ish. And if it was something we're doing, or we're the only ones advertising it, it would have to make us a more attractive place for them to feel even more comfortable running their trucks with new technology. So I'm in violent agreement with where I think you were going, Darcy.
And one of the comments that I want to make is that because this is federally funded, most of the the majority of the money coming from the USGS, out of 3D program, 3D elevation program nationwide. And the good thing is that this coverage, Indiana is the one that has a multiple coverage, but we pretty much have whole Midwest from to all the way eastern, the east of the United States. We have a LiDAR coverage for whole the whole area. And they, as a part of their, the 3D program, they has to have an accuracy assessment, to be done independently. And if I'm just, sharing my screen again quickly so that you can have an idea where you can access, when you just, first, log into and access this site, and at the bottom here, in-depth review of the elevation accuracy for the, LiDAR data for 2019, you just click it. They have a report included over here, and for the non-vegetated area, they're supposed to be, root mean scale of G elevation is supposed to be less than 10 centimeter.
So I mean,
very good. So I'll close the loop with one of my graduate students who's been doing the modeling work of the Class 8 truck platooning stuff, and get this in front of him and see what he thinks and get back to you. But yeah, this is outstanding information. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is really cool stuff. I'm just curious because this is not my area of expertise, but so how does this compare to what Google's been doing, right, with their Street View stuff, and they have the 3D models of the buildings that you can see? Is that not open source? We don't have access to that, or is that just in, cities?
I don't think Google building layer is available freely unless we're using Google Map interface to to see it. And I don't know how the Google is doing exactly, but those street map is just the fisheye the images collecting from the camera. Probably they might have some proprietary the algorithm to kind of display on a map environment, unless Eamon has a better knowledge about how that is happening.
So Dave, as John has said before, this data is mainly actually funded by the USGS to have they have very strict standards in terms of the accuracy. So I think as Jen had mentioned, the elevation accuracy is expected to be 10 centimeter. The planimetric accuracy, I think, should be within 1 foot or 2 feet. Google is not really, their actually interest is not really the accuracy. So anything plus or minus 10 feet, That's true. So these are completely different, I would say, perspectives. And
Okay.
I think one of the things that related to the accuracy, and this is something which is, I would say, maybe unique to Indiana, is that we have our own mobile mapping systems. We can do a very good study actually to evaluate, to do benchmarking, actually evaluate this
Yep.
accuracy. Again, I know that the USGS is saying that this is the expected accuracy. They do accuracy verification, but that doesn't mean that the data will have to be accurate. Depends on whether they did I mean, this is an expected accuracy, but they do, I would say, sporadic checks here and there. But we can have the systems and the tools to do very actually good benchmarking and evaluating the accuracy to have the to prove that this data is accurate as they claim it to be, which I think it is.
Very cool.
Outstanding dialogue. So, Jinha, you set the bar high for
Okay.
future briefings, and I guess welcome to Purdue, and I'm gonna thank you again for chairing the search committee that brought Jinha here, because I think he wowed the group. I guess one question, David Love, I see you're on, and I just wonder in the RF space if you see any applications. I realize I'm putting you on the spot, but part of this is just trying to make new connections for Jinha in this new virtual environment. So over to you, David.
Yeah, so I mean, the stuff that that was mentioned as Krogmeyer's, I'm involved with that. So there's definitely usage of this. And, for one thing is just if you're doing UAV based or any kind of rural internet, this kind of data set is very useful. And from my understanding, at least from the RF propagation setup, there's nothing like this that's available from any other state. So it's sort of been like a marketing pitch to use. So yeah, we're aware of it, and it's very useful.
Fantastic, and so David, I'm the the lowest technical on this one. I just thought it was so cool, so I didn't mean to overstate or suggest you didn't know about the data. So